Detachment isn't this concept that's just meant for the woo woo manifesting world. Detachment is such an important concept that each of us can learn to apply on a day to day basis to help ourselves achieve our goals faster and make this journey easier for us. And I'm so excited that you are here because in this video, I'm going to break down what is detachment and how to effectively detach from your goals so that you can 10x your life that much faster and easier. If you're new to this channel, my name is Dr. Bisleen. I'm a naturopathic doctor who helps people maximize their potential by teaching them how to optimize their brain. I have worked with hundreds of people and I'm so excited that you're here on this channel because I am sharing all my tips and tricks so that you too can maximize your potential. The first thing that I want to start off with is what detachment actually is so that we're all on the same page here. Detachment is about emotionally releasing the need for a specific outcome while still staying committed to the process. And when you think of detachment in that way, it sounds kind of complicated. So I am going to break down all the steps to make this be really, really easy for you to detach. Because what happens to a lot of us is that as soon as we set a goal, we get so focused on the outcome of the goal that it takes away from the journey and process that we're actually in on a day-to-day basis. It's important for you to remember that detachment is not about giving up on the outcome itself, but it's about reducing the anxiety and pressure that comes with achieving a goal. When you're too attached to the outcome, it actually creates more stress and it blocks any sort of creativity because that outcome can come to fruition in many different ways. But if you have a set way of how that outcome actually needs to become a reality, it takes away from all the other beautiful possibilities as to how the outcome can actually become a reality. Detachment is such a beautiful thing to practice because it actually opens up space for intuition, creativity, and resiliency in the face of challenges. Practicing detachment also allows you to stay focused in on the present moment rather than obsessing over the end result because really the present moment is all that matters. And when we become obsessed over the end result, it changes the way that we show up in the present moment, which ultimately affects the end result at the end of the day. And lastly, practicing detachment is so important because it helps you to trust the process and it keeps you in that flow state instead of forcing those results. So reminder, detachment is about emotionally detaching from the need of the outcome and focusing on that process instead. With that being said, here are my top steps to help you detach from your goals so that you can actually achieve your goals faster. Step number one, which is the most important step, is to focus on the process and not the results. I'm reading this book right now called The Winner Effect, and I'm going to make a whole video about this book because it is so fascinating. This book essentially dives into the psychology of winning. What happens to a lot of us, say if your goal in your business is to make $1 million a year, we become so focused on the end result, and that actually starts to create a lot of pressure and anxiety for us in the moment. And the worst part about all of this is that we don't let ourselves celebrate the progress and the wins because we feel like the only thing that we can celebrate is that $1 million a year. When we focus on only celebrating that big goal and outcome, it actually makes it so difficult for us to want to stick to the goal in the first place. What I want you to remember is that it's not about decreasing the goal or making the goal smaller. You can for sure hit $1 million years in your business, but I want you to think about all the mini goals that you need to achieve in order to make this big goal be a possibility. When we allow ourselves to celebrate the wins, when we focus on the process, it actually helps us build momentum so that we can achieve that goal that much faster. And what I want you to remember here too is that who you are in the present moment is what ultimately determines the results that you're going to get. So if you are constantly stressed out, constantly anxious, constantly in this high pressure state to make your goals become a reality, then this is who you are showing up as in the present moment. And you're not going to end up making the best decisions that are going to allow your goals to happen that much faster. Versus if you show up in the present moment with a sense of calm, trusting that your goal is guaranteed, it allows you to show up in the present moment in a much more powerful way. It allows you to make better decisions and choices that then allow your goals to become a reality that much faster. So next time you find yourself fixated on that end goal and wondering why it's not coming to reality as fast as you want it to, bring your attention back to the present moment and ask yourself, Who do you need to be and how do you need to show up in this present moment so that you can actually make that goal become a reality? And this leads perfectly into tip number 2 in order to detach from your goal is to focus on who you need to be in the moment to actually make your goals become a reality. Why this works so well is because it takes your focus from the end goal to actually focusing on the person that you need to be who naturally achieves that goal in the first place. When you step into the identity of this version of you who's already achieved the goal, who already is that person, you take much more powerful action from that place. It's all about aligning your daily actions and behaviors with the traits of someone who already has what it is that you're aiming for. So this looks like stepping into that level of confidence, of discipline. And what's like the wildest thing about this is that when you actually choose to step into this identity and version of yourself, you literally get downloads of the action steps to take. You get inspired ideas and you really get insight and clarity on how to move forward. Like that is how powerful this stuff is. So stop focusing on the outcome. The outcome's there. Focus on who you need to be today to make that outcome actually become a reality for you. The next step to detach is acting as if the outcome is guaranteed, because it is. And here's why it is. I want you to think of this as your internal state and internal world. And I want this side to be your external world, aka the goal that you want to achieve. When you raise your internal state, right? And when you build the belief that my goal is guaranteed, so let's go back to that goal of having a business that makes $1 million a year. So you're like, I have the belief the goal is there. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen. What ends up happening is that this external world has no choice but to match up to the goal. Because if you have the belief that your business is going to make $1 million in a year, you're going to act based on that belief. You're going to show up in the world based on that belief. So when you act and show up in the world based on that belief, your external world has no choice but to catch up to that. It's when we get impatient and we lose that internal belief that the external world doesn't match up to that. So as long as you hold that internal state of belief that no matter what happens, this is going to become a reality, how can the external world not match up to that? When you act from that internal belief and state of calm and success, it allows you to act from a place of confidence instead of from a place of scarcity and desperation. When you trust the outcome, you release the anxiety and you perform better without the pressure of the what if. There is no what if. If your goal is guaranteed, that's the only thing. It doesn't matter what obstacle comes your way. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. That stuff doesn't matter because your outcome is guaranteed. So I want you to hold that internal state, that internal belief as much as possible and trust the outcome is guaranteed. And when the outcome is guaranteed, the pressure goes away, the stress goes away, the anxiety goes away, and you can show up in the present moment with so much more powerful, calm, joy, peaceful, ease, energy. The next tip I want you to practice to help you detach from your goal is to practice gratitude. Gratitude is by far one of the most important emotions that you can practice on this process to achieving your goals, because whatever you focus on flourishes. So the more that you focus on everything going right, this is like that winner effect. The more that you focus on everything that's going right, it just builds a momentum for more right things to follow. And when you practice gratitude on a day-to-day basis, it helps you really stay in that positive emotional state. My business really started to flourish when I started to become grateful for every single patient that came into my practice. When I would check out patients after their visit, mentally, I would literally say, thank you, Sarah, for trusting me with your health and for coming in and booking this session with me. I wouldn't necessarily say it out loud to them, but this was an internal practice that I would do. I became grateful for every little success, for every little positive movement and momentum that came my way. I just became grateful for it all. And as soon as I became grateful for it all, it's like the floodgates just opened for more of that stuff to enter, because it's like I'm telling the universe, like, thank you, give me more of this, please. My motto is, when in doubt, practice gratitude. When in doubt, be thankful. It is yet to fail me. The next tip that I want you to practice is to let go of the time pressure. I think it's very important for us to have deadlines and timelines on our goals just to help us make sure that we are taking action, but I want you to not get attached to that. This is so important because this gives you permission to work at your own pace. Like, We know now that your goal of, for example, making $1 million in your business is guaranteed. It could happen in a year or maybe 3 years. And sometimes it needs to take 3 years because you need to go through the lessons and learnings for you to get to that spot. What I always like to remind myself is that the universe has better timing for us than we could have ever imagined for ourselves. And when you think about life in that way, you just feel so reassured, protected, and safe. The other reason, too, why this becomes so important is because so many of us put this time pressure on ourselves because someone else has done it better and faster than us. And what I want you to remember is that this race of life is a race between you versus you. It's not you versus Gary in accounting, it's you versus you. So let go of the time pressure. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't set deadlines for yourself as to when you need to complete action steps. So take note of the difference between that. Set deadlines for yourself as to when you need to complete specific action steps, but don't specifically set a deadline for yourself as to when the specific monetary or achievement goal needs to actually happen. Lastly, and probably the most important piece to help you really detach, is to take failure as feedback and not the final outcome. Let that sink in for a second because that was really powerful there. Take your failure as feedback, not the final outcome. We've already talked about before as to how your goals are guaranteed. The final outcome, that's your goal and desire actually being met. Failure is not the final outcome. The challenge that you're experiencing is not the final outcome. It is simply feedback. It is simply a hurdle. It is simply something that's coming your way to help you grow and learn and just challenge you in a different way. And we've talked about that internal, external world state. And you now know that failure doesn't exist because when you hold the internal state, your goals are guaranteed. I am literally getting hyped up as I'm talking about this with you because honestly, we need these reminders. And as much as these videos are for you, they're also serve as reminders for me. And it's important for you to remember that failure doesn't exist. That goal is guaranteed. Failure doesn't exist as long as you uphold your internal state, as long as you have the belief you will meet your goal. What I also like to remind myself is that everything is the unfolding of my actual goal manifesting and coming to life. This means that every failure, every challenge, every hurdle that comes in my way is actually manifesting my goal. It's actually helping me get one step closer to what it is that I actually want to achieve in my life. And this is how you detach. Practice detachment on an everyday basis. When you notice yourself focusing on the outcome, bring yourself back into the present moment. Practice gratitude. Don't let failures get you down. And just watch how detachment helps you meet your goals that much faster.